Alright, y'all. This is the next episode of my story. I'll pick up where I left off. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to my station here, Davis. Um, the Adventures of Davis, whatever it's going to be called. I haven't decided fully, but that's the name I'm going with now. And so, next part of this session is after I graduated out of the Recording Institute Detroit program. I never talked to Brandon again or Amber or any of the guys there. There's a couple flashy characters that went there, walking around with chains and trying to be rappers. They actually spit some stuff, and I had a little group called Luxury ENT. It was me and my couple boys making beats and spitting freestyle raps and recording, and a couple of those dudes actually went on to do something, but still not signed. They're underground records, but they got their own lives, so they work at their own pace here. So shortly after I graduated out of the program, I left Warren and started dating this chick out in Southfield, Detroit area, and she lived in a really bad area out there. Not too many white people out there, I guess you can call it. I was probably one of maybe 10 on the block, if any. If there was 10, the block can go miles. So from Plymouth to Tireman, I was probably one of the very few white people, and I had a black girlfriend. And a lot of people didn't like that. I didn't have a car at the time. I had sold it for weed and bus fare and paying off old debts at the time, so I sold my white Buick that I used to have and started taking the bus again, and I ended up just staying over at this girl's house. I got cool with her family. The uncle didn't really care for me too much, but I started dating this girl, Sonata, and she, when I first met her, she was sober. She didn't do anything. She didn't smoke cigarettes or smoke weed or do pills or anything like that. And then about 6 months into dating her, she started talking to some friends when I was at work all the time. I used to work these really long hours, shitty, boring factory jobs. And man, the lighting. I need to move. I'm in my first podcast. I'm in this room. It's a pool room, guys. Nothing really here. I'm actually just doing this stuff I'm at work right now. I'm actually a driver for a company, and they're handling business right now, so I'm just doing my podcast. Alright, so back to the story. So yeah, I sell my Buick. I move out there to Tireman and Warren area in Detroit, which is close by Dearborn. A lot of blacks, African Americans in the area, a lot of crackheads, a lot of Indians, a lot of Arabic people out in this area. A lot of bad things happen, stabbings, shootings, all kinds of stuff, and I didn't care nothing about it. Wasn't phasing me. Detroit, I grew up in the area, I hear all kinds of stuff, and I don't care about being another statistic, and all these other things just didn't matter. So I lived there with her family, got cool. Her uncle, like I said, her uncle didn't like me, Uncle Jason. He was really sick. He was a truck driver, and he started finally taking a liking to me after I went to McDonald's and ordered him like $50 worth of food one day, and came back from the place we call the Murder Mac out on Exit 9. Come up off the freeway, KDZ, the Lodge Boys, Made West, all these groups from out there had, pretty much got this place called the Murder Mac. Familiar with like T Grizzly and a couple of these rappers out here now. K.A., big famous guy from over 6 Mile. I wanted to get into that lifestyle, so I meet Sonata's parents, and her stepdad lived in Indianapolis, so I haven't met him yet, but I was going to one day because we decided we were going to get engaged after a couple months, and we were going to start a life. And so the mama's pretty young, bigger woman. We call her Mama D, and I love her to this day. Very grateful for her and her family. They let me stay around for quite a while out there and took care of me. So, I have nothing bad to say about that. But back to the story. So me and Sonata start hanging out real hard, and at first we're not having sex or anything like that. It's just late night visits, me smoking and hanging out and talking. And I got caught a few times. I got caught getting head, and Mama D beat me with a bamboo stick of some sort a few times. Anyways, we got accustomed, everybody. I just hang out and smoke weed with Mama D and go to the casino and go get food with her and a couple of her friends. And we used to go to these parties, and she turned me on to these people called the Reclaws. And they were blood affiliates. And, I used to like music, and I used to chill with them. And my dude Blow and a couple other dudes, I'm not really going to give out their name, but Reclaw, which is Walker spelled backwards, their last names. And, so start hanging out with Sonata and going to their parties and drinking and smoking weed, and we're doing, just minute things of trouble. Later on, I start finding out that Sonata was hooking up with people and getting pills, and I want to break up with her, but she was super hot to me, so I kept her around. She's a mixed chick, like 90 pounds, soaking wet, just looks like a babe. And so anyways, I started dating her, and we started fooling around, and I started becoming, I wanted to be a blood. I wanted to hang out with all the bloods in the street and gang members with guns and smoke weed whenever I wanted and drink. And I started hanging out with them more and more, and stopped hanging out with the Sonata, and she started hanging out with some white rapper guy that was from, I don't know, downriver somewhere in Southgate or Wyandotte or something like that. It's an area about an hour and a half from her house. And I've never really been out there, but I have now, but at that time I didn't. So I just thought it was super far away and never going to mess with that area. So, I started hanging out with them and Blow and a couple other dudes and Cash. You got a guy named Cash, guy named Smoke, a guy named Raz, a dude named Big Dog who was like a 6'5", big bald black guy that knuckle up with anybody. He needed a drink. He was always shaky, and we just call him Big Dog. And there's a whole bunch of stories about Big Dog and Cash and them. We'll get into that. So I started hanging out with these guys, and I'm hanging out, trying to go to rapathons, we called them, because it was like a bunch of group of people going into a freestyle battle, and you would go into a marathon, 100 blunt rotations. We'd go to little get-togethers and abandoned houses in Detroit and just light up different blunts and smoke for hours. And a couple times I lived out in Tyreman when I was still with Sonata. 2008, 2009. I think I stayed there until like 2010. Stayed over there in that area, and I met up this guy. We called him Duck. I forget, it was a movie, something Duck, not Donald Duck or anything like that. It was some kind of duck. He was kind of supposedly, the word would be around what they used to call it, retarded. A retarded duck. I don't like to use that word, so sorry. A slow duck. I forget the name of the movie. I'll try to find it for you in the next video or put in my links. But he lived in a house. He had money and all kinds of things like that. He had no car, but he always get money for crack. And hey, go get me a rock up there in Umbrella, over there by the liquor store. And I'll go over there, and I'm looking for these places, and I never find them. And then some random little skinny, messed up looking face with marks all over. And at that time I didn't really know about, track marks and smoking rocks and boulders. And I learned about all this stuff from going to this guy. We call him Duck. And he would send me to these random spots in the middle of the night or right as daybreak in Detroit. Now I'm a white boy out in this area. There's people walking all around ready to beat your ass over anything. And I walk up there and they're like, "What you need? What you need?" And they're like, "You need some weed?" And I'm like, "Nah, I need a rock." And he's like, "Well, like what?" I was like, "A $50 rock. I need it right now." And it comes back and they got this $50 rock, and in the baggie it's wrapped up tight, and put it in my pocket. Don't think nothing of it, and I'm about ready to walk off. And he's like, "Hey, come on in here. Come, let me show you something." They bring me back behind the house. There's like a little shed, like a 4x4 shed. I walk in there. It's no light. You sit down. There's the light is a crack through the through the shed, and there's people standing there with these little stems, this big, like around. I thought it was a steamroller. She hands it to me. She's like, "You want to smoke?" I'm like, "Huh? What is this?" She's like, "It's some crack. It feels good. It's like smoking weed." And I was like, "Nah, I'm not into this." And so anyway, she's like, "Well, you gonna sit here and you gonna smoke this product?" I said, "It's not for me, man. I ain't touching it." She's like, "Well, you gonna do it?" And I break a piece off. I put it in the stem, and I go to light it up. And I was like, "I can't do it." But I was like, "I gotta look like I'm doing it." And then I pass it to them, and they smoke it all, and I act like I'm high, I act like I'm doing it, but I really didn't even inhale it. Never touched mine. I just act like I did. And so they smoked that little piece, and I'm tripping. I gotta get out of here. Duck's looking for me. He's calling me, blowing me up. "Hey, man, where's my money? Where's my weed? Where's my blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "You didn't ask me for no weed, Got you your $50 rock." So I walk back, just like a 12, 13-minute walk down to the street, get back to the block, and I get to Duck's house, and I hand it to him. He's like, "Yo, you missing a little bit here." And I'm like, "Nah, man, I don't do that stuff, And I lie to him, obviously. And he's like, "Whatever." And he just goes in the house, and he cooks dinner. He cooks me dinner. He just likes the partnership of me being able to get what he wants, because he's an older gentleman. And so he makes food, and he'll smoke cigarettes with me if I didn't have any, or smoke some weed. And so we got a good thing going. So I'm hanging out with him almost daily at the end of work every day. Go down to a street, and you got some weed, you got some cigarettes. We're gonna smoke them. He sometimes occasionally throw me some money, cook me food and all that. And one day I go to his house, and I knock on his door, and I see that he's drinking. And his eyes, his lids of his the whites of his eye are yellow. I'm like, "Damn, Duck, what's going on, man? What the hell's wrong with you?" He's like, "Man, you need to go get me a bag." And I'm like, "Of what?" He's like, "Here," he gives me like $1,500 cash. And I'm like, "Yo, man, I don't know about this. This ain't a good idea." I was like, "This ain't my money. I don't want anything." He's like, "Man, you be good. You always give me about what I need. You know what I'm saying? You come back and give me what y'all need. I take care of you, man." So I go to that same spot, and I get there, and these people are like, "Man, that's a lot. Like, where you getting all this money?" I was like, "Listen, don't worry about it. Just get my shit for me." So then I get a bag for myself of some weed. I get like a quarter of some stanky ass weed, Kush. Probably back then it was called Chronos. I probably get a couple packs of cigarettes with this money, and I come back with probably only like $1,200 worth of shit. And I pocket like $100, and I bring him his shit, and he never says nothing about it. He's, "Thank you, man. And I do this for a couple months, and I'm pocketing a couple $100 each time, a pack of cigarettes, some weed, off this dude's money. And one day I come over there, and he's sitting on the porch in a chair, like slumped over, like he's, he's slumped, like knocked out. I'm like, "Yo, Duck." I knock on him. And I'm like, "Wake up, dude. Like, wake up, man. What's going on?" He's like, "Yo, what's going on, man?" He starts tripping out, bugging, like, "Yo, man, I got people looking for me and all this." And I'm like, "What you mean?" He's like, "Yo, man, I borrowed some money from somebody, and I ain't got the money. I spent it all on crack and booze, and I'm running from them now, so that's why you be doing all this for me." And I stayed alert on the scene. I gotta stay in the house, and I'm about to not pay my rent. I'm about to get kicked out and go back to prison. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And sure as shit, about 15 minutes goes by, and this dude just comes walking down the street, some khaki pants and a wife beater. Just a white wife beater and some brown khaki-ish style pants and some dress shoes. Looked all cracked out, faces drooping, and eyeballs all in here's all white and yellow, radish. And he's got a thick beard that's down to here. Kind of remind me of that MMA fighter that everybody, what's his name? It'll come to me. It don't matter. I can't. He's a Street Fighter, big guy. Not Mr. T, but another dude. And so he comes walking up, and he's like, "Yo, is that Duck?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? What you got?" He's like, "Man, that mother owes me money. He's got my crack, he's got my booze, and all this." And I'm like, "What do you mean, man? This what you're, doing?" And he starts swinging on me. I move. He punches. He hits like a beam of holds up the front of your house, like your awning type of thing. He hits it, dents it in, and it's hanging there. And I'm like, "Dog, man, Duck, get your boy." Duck's 62, 63 years old, older, junkie, strung out. He doesn't really have no fight in his body. One hit would crush this guy. But this guy isn't that old either. But at the same time, he's old enough where he gets messed up. So I start dodging out of this, pushing this guy off the porch you need to leave and all this different stuff. And dude's just not wanting to go. So finally, Duck goes in the house. And he comes out with a shot glass and a bottle of wine, which I thought was a bottle of wine. He grabs a shot, he drinks it down, he pours another shot, takes it, and then while the guy's just yelling and screaming at him, he pours one more shot, 3 shots, downs it, and the dude steps up, pushes me out the way. "Get the fuck out." So Duck's just standing there, and he just swings about, knocks over, hits the guy across the head, cuts them all up. Guy falls off the porch into a bush, face down, and he's just laying there, and Duck's like, "That's what I taught. You don't mess with a man on his own property." And so dude's leaking, and Duck comes out, and he goes back in the house and comes back out with a brick. Like a brick, And he's like, "I got that weed. And I got what I need, but you ain't gonna take nothing from me." And he just throws this brick and hits the dude right in the back of the head with it. And I'm like, "Oh, man." So I'm just like, "Yo, Doc, I gotta get up out of here." And he's like, "You ain't going nowhere. You gonna help me clean this mess up." And I was like, "Doc, I'm not helping you do anything." So anyways, dude, so convincing with me. Dude's just laying there, knocked unconscious, leaking blood. And I go back in the house. I roll up a joint. And I take a shot of whatever he was drinking, some kind of whiskey of some sort. He had another bottle of it. I forget what it was called. I think it was called Canada House is what he had. And I take a couple shots of Canada House, light my joint, smoke a cigarette, and I just grabbed this dude out of the bush. And it's heavy. I'm pulling him up. I'm only 17 going on 18 years old. I'm 18 years old, actually. I think about it. I graduated high school in 2007, so I am a little foggy in memory. That's why some of these stories, I have stories when I was younger, and I have stories when I'm a little bit older. And this is right at the mark where I was 17 going on 18, and now I'm 18 now because I had already graduated in May of 2007, so this is 2008. And this is the middle of the summer, so this is August. And this is around, I believe the Duck's birthday was in August. I don't remember, August 15th or something like that. And so this dude's just laying in the bush, just leaking. And so I grab him, and I roll him out of the bush. I just roll him on his back, and he's just unconscious. He's breathing, but he's leaking blood. And I kick him a little bit. I'm like, "Yo, man, you gotta get the fuck up out of here." And so, excuse my language, I need to cut that out. You need to get up out of here. And I kick him a couple times, nudge him, not really kick him, but nudge him a few times, and he gets up and starts stumbling away down the street. and I look at Duck, and I'm like, man, what is going on? You know. After that, I go back to my girl's house and go look for my boy Blow and hang out with the Reclaws, which they lived on Evergreen and Warren. And if you go down to Joy Road, Joy Road in Braille, which is just a mile from there, there's a little spot called the In and Out, and that's where I always find some of my Reclaw people. You know, I find Gator or I forget the other dude's name. Gutter. That's his name. We call him Gutter. And he was kind of a skitty cat, kind of baldish, but he's been around. He did some prison time for a lot of things, and he knew a lot about a lot of things in there. And I used to look up to a lot of these dudes and found out that really they were corrupt, but they were trying to teach me not to be corrupt, and it was kind of awkward. And I got around a bunch of cats, and later on, me and Sonata had broke up, and I started talking to the dude that she was seeing. Me and him were kind of cool. It was kind of a weird situation, but we kind of linked up. We were cool. Both of our birthdays were in June. We were Geminis. We both liked the same music, and kind of used to roll around together. I was the third wheel in a way. And he had a little rap group. We used to go out to Southgate or Wyandotte. He'd do performance out there, and we'd get free booze, free weed, and free little mixtapes and gear, and just chill out there. He drove